Look, you need to hear me say that there's nothing intrinsically noble about suffering. Sometimes pain just hurts, and suffering is just sad, and grief just has to be gotten through, and there's nothing more to it than that. And sentimentalizing the bad in our lives does not make the bad good. It's still bad, plain and simple. But there is a way that we can endure the tragic consequences of a fallen world in a way that allows God to transform something as dark as suffering into something like redemption. And it's easier if you see this than for me to try to say it. So I want to give you a picture. All the way back in Genesis 32, there's this really strange scene in the early stages of God's long, slow redemption plan when Jacob wrestles with God. When this one man named Jacob actually spends all night in a real rolling around on the ground wrestling match with the divine. And that bizarre but profound scene ends at sunrise. There's obvious imagery there. It ends when the light breaks the dark. That's when the wrestle stops. And two things happen at that moment. One is that Jacob's hip is knocked out of socket. And the other is that God renames Jacob. That because of his wrestle, he says, now that you've wrestled with me, I'm not going to call you Jacob anymore, but your name is Israel. So Jacob wrestles with God, and that's what we do in times of suffering. That's what we should do at least. The spiritually healthy response to suffering is to take the fight to God. It is to pray your pain. It is to ask hard questions without clear answers. It is to express your sadness or grief or disappointment, and to do all of that with God. To pray out our pain, to pray out our emotion, to take the fight to the God of power and love and say it like we really mean it. God, you could have. But God, you didn't. We take the fight to God because when we do, we connect our ache to his ache. We connect our pain to the great pain. And two things happen when we wrestle with God. They're the same things that happened to Jacob. Jacob got a new name. In the Hebrew imagination, that meant he's given a new identity, and it was Israel, which literally means one who wrestles with God. This is our inheritance as his children, is to wrestle with him. But the second is that he walks with a limp the rest of his life. And so here's the principle that I want you to see and that you also experience, is that suffering and the wrestling with God that we endure through suffering is repurposed into redemption. It gives us a new identity, a new name, a redemptive one, and suffering hurts. It hurts in a way that we never fully recover from this side of eternity. We walk with a limp the rest of our lives from the pain that God never intended that we face and is inflicted upon us.